G'day everybody and welcome back to a brand new video here on the YouTube channel. Today I'll be seeing what the AFL ladder would look like if premiership points were counted throughout the AFL final series. Now if you guys do go on to enjoy this video, could you please show me that by liking the video, subscribing to the channel if you are new, as well as hitting that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And enough wasting your time, let's get straight into this week's video. Now let me explain this a little bit more for those who don't understand. After every single win, you will receive 4 points to your name, and that determines where you finish on this year's AFL ladder. So there will be some that didn't receive any points at all during this year's finals, and there'll be some that received a lot more and improved higher on the ladder, and there will be some that will drop lower on the ladder. First up, in 8th place is no change at all, being the Carlton Blues. Obviously, they finished 8th place at the end of the AFL season, and they will finish 8th place at the end of the final series. They only played in one final this year, being an elimination final against the Brisbane Lions, where they nearly went scoreless in the first half. And they obviously went on to lose that game, with the finals margin being 28 points. And their premiership points were 52 heading into the final series, and will stay at 52 for the rest of the year. In 7th place, we have the Western Bulldogs. The Western Bulldogs finished one spot higher, being 6th on the ladder. They played an elimination final week 1 against the Hawthorn Hawks, where it took place at the MCG. They led by 2 goals at quarter time, but unfortunately just could not win the game, with the final scores being 62-99, where the Western Bulldogs lost the game by 37 points. And because of this outcome, no premiership points was added to the Western Bulldogs name, and they dropped down to 7th on the ladder. In 6th place, where the Western Bulldogs did finish going into finals, is the GWS Giants. This may come as a surprise to you guys, as the Giants did finish in the top 4 going into finals. Week 1 of the finals, GWS took on the Sydney Swans at the SCG, as the Swans did finish the season in 1st place. After every single siren during that game, the Giants were actually in front. That was until the final siren, where the Swans won the game by 6 points, with Joel Amati kicking the winning goal with just seconds to go. But as the Giants did finish in the top 4, that meant they got a second chance the very next week in the semi-finals, where they took on the Brisbane Lions. But unfortunately, they lost that game as well by a margin of 5 points. Meaning that with them winning 0 games in the final series and some teams winning more than expected, that meant that they dropped down to 6th on the ladder and did not receive any premiership points. In 5th on the ladder, we have the Hawthorn Hawks. After the AFL season ended, the Hawthorn Hawks found themselves in 7th place, 1 spot higher than Carlton. Meaning that during week 1 of the finals, they were forced to face off against the Western Bulldogs at the MCG for an elimination final. And after winning that game, they faced off against Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval the very next week in the semi-finals. But unfortunately, they went on to lose that game. So although they finished in 7th of the ladder, they still beat the Western Bulldogs, meaning that they added 4 points to their name, and with them having 56 premiership points earlier in the season, they now added it up to 60. Meaning that yes, both the GWS Giants and the Hawthorn Hawks had 60 points each. So why is it the Hawks go higher than the Giants? That is because the Hawks had a higher percentage, with them having 118.5%, and the Giants had a percentage of 109.1%. We're now moving into the top 4 of this year's AFL ladder, and in 4th place, I've got the Geelong Cats. The Cats actually played in the first final this year, being against Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. This was a qualifying final where the Cats won the game by a margin of 84 points. And because it was a qualifying final, they moved straight onto the prelim and skipped the semi-finals. Their next final took place at the MCG, where they would face off against the Brisbane Lions. But as the final sign sounded, the Cats had lost the game by a margin of 10 points. And although the Cats did finish 3rd on the ladder, they only won 1 game during this year's finals, which dropped them down to 4th. But the Cats did still win a game, so 4 premiership points will be added to their 60 and will soon change to 64 premiership points. On 3rd of the ladder, it ended up being Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide and the Cats were the first qualifying final of the year, where Port Adelaide lost the game by 84 points. But the Power were given a second chance the very next week, where they won the game and moved on to a prelim final. This meant that Port Adelaide's season was still alive, and if they won their next game, they'd be on to the grand final. But it didn't matter, as they lost the game by a margin of 36 points. And even though Port Adelaide did finish off the AFL season in 2nd place with 64 premiership points, they had to drop down 1 to 3rd and still had 68 premiership points, but unfortunately wasn't enough to maintain their spot. In 2nd on the ladder is the 2024 AFL Premiers, being the Brisbane Lions. The reason that the Lions have moved up from 5th to 2nd is because of how many wins that they did get in this year's AFL final series. Their first final of the year was at the Gabba, where they faced off against the Carlton Blues and nearly left them scoreless in that first half and went on to win the game. The next one was against the GWS Giants in the semi-finals, where they came back from being 44 points down and won the game by 5 points. The third final was a preliminary final against the Cats at the MCG, where they won the game by 10 points. And finally, in the AFL Grand Final, they bet the Sydney Swans by a margin of 60 points, and I may as well add this in, Will Ashcroft won the Norm Smith medal. At the end of the AFL season, they finished in 5th place with 58 premiership points, but finished the AFL season in 2nd on the ladder with 74 AFL fantasy points. And first on the ladder is the Sydney Swans. That's right, after every single outcome during the final series, the Swans still managed to find themselves on top as they bet the GWS Giants week 1 of the finals, moved on to a prelim, and bet Port Adelaide, moved on to the grand final, but unfortunately lost the game. And although the Sydney Swans started off the AFL season with 68 premiership points, in this concept they finished off the AFL season with 76 points and still finished in first on the ladder, but only 2 points above Brisbane. And this video does have to come to an end now, but if you guys did enjoy this video, so please show me that by liking the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and also just leave a comment below letting me know that you did enjoy this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.